Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sixth episode of Think Outside Yourself. I'm your host, Brendan Schlucci, and with me is my lifelong friend, Harrison Timberlake. Timbo, how you doing today, babe?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy you're here. So, Timbo and I have gone way back. We've known each other since freshman year of high school. We played baseball together, and Timbo is currently playing at Georgia Southwestern State. He's majoring in business management there, knows a lot about the game, knows a lot about lifting, the mental game. So we're going to get all into that today. I'm very excited about it. I know that you trained at Cressy recently. You were down there for a long time rehabbing and fine-tuning mechanics and stuff like that. So there is definitely, it's not a secret that Cressy is kind of like up here. And a lot of other training facilities are below it or follow in the footsteps of Cressy. So I want to know from your perspective, working out there, throwing there, all that, what are the types of things you would see at Cressy that you wouldn't see at other baseball-specific training facilities?
It's interesting. The phrasing of that question is interesting. So it's not about the things that you would see like physically there that you wouldn't see in other places, right? Like there might be high-tech facilities all across the country. I think barring the actual Proteus machine that you might see in some Instagram videos on the press. Besides that, everything is actually regular squat racks, regular med balls. There's busted up med balls. There's rusty kettlebells. There's, stuff that makes you know that there's a kind of a hard-nosed attitude. The difference is the attention to detail in the coaching. The attention to detail in the programming, the attention to detail in the individualized, specific approach to their actual comprehensive training programs. And I think that that's what separates them or what allows them to be a leader in that industry.
That is super important to be able to kind of a lot of people will always chase the bells and whistles when it comes to gyms and stuff like that, like who has the nicest stuff, who's got the most equipment, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you could be in the nicest gym possible, but still not be doing the work that you need to be doing. So it really is awesome. And for anybody listening, I've been down to Cressy a couple times. I know Timbo can attest to this as well. It is A1. It is definitely a place that is worth the money that you invest into it. So. Another question I have about. I'm sorry.
We'll add on to that real quickly. It's also the community that they've created, not just with the coaching staff and the players there, but the players among the players, and kind of it's a trickle down effect, right? Like it's a top down. It's how the pros interact with regular guys. It's how kids interact with high schoolers, and kids interact with college guys, and kids interact with the pros, and the pros interact with all those people. College guys interact with all those people, and I think that that's. It goes to how Eric Cressy is kind of pioneered that with him being kind of the leader in that, and also Shane Rye down there, and Eric Schoenberg and Tanner Allen on the PT side. Like they all have roles to play in terms of the community and the culture that's being created there, and it shows when you're there. It shows when you're talking. Pitching on the turf field, or you're talking about pitching on the in the cover cages or whatever, and even on the hitting side, on the weightlifting side, the level of conversation is highly intelligent. It's not stupid conversations that are being had there.
It also seems like the ego goes out the door when you're there. I mean, I've only been there a few times for live at bats and stuff, but I've met guys like Noah Syndergaard, Justin Verlander, big league guys that have a pretty big name, but when they're on that field, it's not like they have that big name. It's like they're just a normal guy, and I think that a lot of people in this world fail to notice that, especially when it comes to professional baseball players, professional athletes in general. It's just they're regular people, and and if you treat them like regular people, they'll treat you like regular people, and there doesn't need to be this whole. Oh my gosh, that's Justin Verlander. Oh my gosh, that's Noah Syndergaard. It's just, that's who they are. They're just people.
Yeah, no idol worshiping. That's Coach Barry Robinson, boxing coach. He says that when he's watching film, studying film. There's no idol worshiping allowed, and his peers and his students. That's something I take.
That.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to idol worship under Coach Barry Robinson's philosophy. And I think
That's
that
awesome.
if you take that into the baseball world or any world in general, then you're able to take somebody like Justin Verlander, right? Like, see all the good things he does, right? But then not become obsessed with who he is on a fan level. And then when you have the opportunity to meet Justin Verlander, as I've had, then you're not starstruck to the point where you can't ask an intelligent question.
Exactly,
You know what I mean? So I think that the separating of the two, where you get so enthralled by who that person is that you're watching videos on them and you're watching their interviews and them in high school growing up and all these other things, right? Like there becomes a point where enough is enough and you need to stop worshiping them as an individual, because they're just like you. They started just where you are. And, the process might not be as apparent to you because it might seem a little bit more fast, but at the end of the day, they're just like who you are. They bleed red at the end of the day. They take a piss in the morning. So
I remember the first time I met Chris Sale. It was like very soon after, maybe like a year. I'm not sure, but it was very soon after he signed that like $300 million contract. And guys are like that's $300 million, bro. And the first time I met him, I remember we were both walking into our spring training facility at the same time, and the dude's in baggy Jordan shorts, just like a plain blue T-shirt and camo Crocs. And if you saw that guy walking down the street, you'd be like, "It's just a normal ass dude." And that's that's the way you have to think of it. They're just normal ass people. Sure, they may have like sure they may be on TV a little more. Sure, they may be making a lot of money, but man, at the end of the day, they're just people.
Yep.
So going back to what we were talking about Cressy, is another question I have for you is, what did you learn from there that you kind of take into your daily life now? Like, has there been anything that you learned from there that has really changed how you go about your routines every day?
I don't know if there's something from there that takes a bit, I think that I was already developed a lot of my routines by the time that I went down there. I think it helped me refocus, because when I went down there, I was able to refocus and kind of remap how my body moved and the movement quality. And I'd say, to answer your question specifically, there's nothing that I take away that influenced my day-to-day operation, so to say. But the thing that I definitely am more conscious about is my movement quality and all the things that go into my health and my body's performance. I think that performing at a higher capacity than the normal average human is able to do is, something that if you are, and you can attest to this as well, talent is only exposed when the hard work is put in. If me and you didn't work hard, then we would never have been told that we were talented, right? No. But at the end of the day, if you're without that hard work, the talent cannot be exposed. So I think that the attention to detail with and please tell me if I'm kind of going in circles, but the attention to detail of your movement quality and stuff is the thing that I'm taking away from going down to Cressy. And, in terms of my health, what I'm putting into my body, how I'm sleeping, how I'm performing, essentially
there's so much that goes into it. It's just like that's the thing is like, there's some of the kids I train these days, like they're thinking about starting to get into the weight room and stuff like that. And that, like, obviously that's important, but that's just the first step. It's like, you got to start thinking about your nutrition. I have this one kid he actually asked me today, he's like, what can I do for more power? Like, I've been trying to get in the weight room and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, what'd you have for breakfast this morning? And he goes, nothing. And I'm like, dude, well, like, it's nutrition, it's sleep, it's taking care of your body, it's stretching, it's like being not only being
not cool. Yeah.
What?
It's all the stuff that's not cool.
Yeah, it's all the stuff that you don't want to do, but you have to. Because, like, to hop on what you said, I think of it in a little bit of a different way when it comes to talent. I think talent can make you successful, but it can only take you so far. You need to develop some skill to like be able to make that talent come to another level. Because you can be talented to the point where you're in high school, and talent in high school can get you looked at by like a college, and you can go to college. But all those kids were talented in high school. What are you going to do to be able to be successful at that level? That's where the skill comes in. And then when the skill comes in, you're able to run with it and then hopefully make it to the next level. And then you got to develop more skill and stuff like that. That's just the way I look at it. I know that it's a very it's kind of like up and down with how people think of like talent versus skill. But I do understand what you're saying as well, is like really putting in the hard work is what lets the talent shine.
Yeah, I think it's a nuanced subject. And I think that to kind of tweak the way that you phrased talent versus skill, I think that I agree with you mostly. I think that where I differ is the talent at a younger age is usually defined by, and Kobe says this in a lot of his interviews about his youth. And he talks about, and I know you're a huge Kobe guy, so this is perfect for you, but he talks about how when he was asked, like, okay, what were you focusing on at 12, 13, 14 years old to separate yourself from competition? And what were you doing in the gym, or what were you doing in competition to kind of get that extra edge, or how are you sizing up your competition?
Yeah.
He gave a really unique answer, and his answer was, I knew that I wanted to be the best in the world, or one of the best in the world of all time at basketball, because I fell in love with the game. And so his aim was not to be better than somebody at 13 years old. His aim was not better to be than somebody at 14 years old or 15 years old. His aim was to be better than that person when the putting mattered, when they were 23, 24 in the playing in the championship, playing in the finals. That's when he needed to be better than them. And so his goals were so far set out in the future. I think that he even said as well, the physical differences, by somebody being stronger or bigger or, just a little bit ahead in terms of maturity. Those things, especially, I mean, that's not just a basketball thing. That's any type of athletic endeavor across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember as a younger kid, like there was other kids that were throwing harder than me, but we didn't look at the fact that they were also 6'3" at 13. You know what I mean? And everybody was everybody, especially like that's. I like to tell the kids that too. Is just like everybody's at their own pace, and this is another Kobe thing too. Is just like it's not about. I always say like comparison is the thief of joy. You can't compare because there's only negative aspects that are going to come out of it, but if you get better than you were yesterday, that's all that matters. Is if you get a little better every single day. You want to be in a competition with yourself. That's how I look at it, because that's the only thing that matters. Because if you get a little better than you were yesterday, that day is successful. And then it slowly builds. Like I know that like that saying where it's like get 1% better every day and in 100 days you'll be 100% better. That's right.
Okay, like that's like a little bit of a weird way to put it. But when it comes to it, yeah, like these kids, they're all going to be at like different heights, different weights. They're all growing in different ways. So when you're able to just focus on, okay, I don't need to be better at the guy that's 50 pounds heavier than me and 6'3" already. I just need to be better than I was yesterday. And if you're able to put it in perspective, and then you end up growing and you're able to get better and better as you're growing, you'll look back in the rearview mirror and be like, I am 10 times better than that one kid that hit the growth spurt earlier is.
Well, I mean, you're a perfect example of that, right? Like, you played JV baseball your freshman year. I was on varsity by that time, and look at where you're at now. Look where I'm at now. And I'm not again, we're not comparing ourselves to each other, but your path, if you were to compare yourself to me at that time, you'd be like, oh, my self-worth is less or whatever. But if God or whoever was to come down and say, hey, this is your future, and you would go dance naked on the beach right now, what your future was, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All the drama and all the mental, stuff that you put on yourself at that time, which I'm sure you did. A lot of kids do when they don't play varsity their freshman year.
Yeah.
If you knew where you were going to be at, you would have a much more easy outlook on things. But you would also probably not. It would also probably not define you the same way that it's defined you since then.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing is like those that like how you said it. That's what defines us. I honestly think if I had known that back then, I wouldn't be able to appreciate it as much as I do now. Because if I had known I'm going to be a big leaguer or like a professional baseball player when I was 14, I probably would have been like, okay, awesome, and then go about my business and like probably be a little more nonchalant about it. But like the things that I've been through, like that, for the audience that don't know, like being on JV my freshman year, having Miami pull their scholarship, having the Yips my freshman year of college, that stuff, dude. Where I am now, I am so freaking appreciative of where I am now because of that shit. Yep. Because I went through that stuff. And I'm so glad you brought up high school ball because that's exactly what I was going to get into. So for those of you who don't know, Timbo's a year older than me, but we both had very similar freshman years. We're both very outgoing guys, and sometimes the older guys don't like that. So if you don't mind, Timbo, would you mind telling me or our audience about your freshman year experience at Penn Charter?
Yeah, so Penn Charter is a unique it's a unique environment athletically because as a high school, and for those who aren't a part of the Interac conference that are watching this, if you are in different states in the 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, 7A public school system, then you might not understand this, but you are required to play 2 sports in high school, and you are required, if you're not playing a second sport, to be a part of clubs and to participate in other school activities as well in school groups. So participation levels were high just because of the fact that the attendance, not the attendance itself, but our enrollment was low. So, for example, my high school class was only 100 some kids. Yeah. And, I was, I believe my freshman year, one of 7 or 8 incoming freshman baseball players. But, and, at the time, I don't know if I'm getting anybody in trouble when I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Essentially, they were recruiting 7th and 8th grade kids to go play high school ball. You know what I mean? Not paying any. Nobody's getting paid. Let me state that on the record. Nobody's getting paid. There's no bribes or anything like that. But
we were all just smart enough to go there.
Yeah, well, yeah, but also at the same time, you're getting recruited. People are coming to your games in summer ball or fall ball or whatever, and they're saying, "Hey, we want you to come to Penn Charter. We want you to go to these schools." And it wasn't just like that for our high school; it was like that across the board, in that league specifically. So my freshman year, I was coming in an interesting time in the program where we are a historically very successful program in producing college players and producing pro players. So coming in, we were just coming off of a 2-year stint where we were pretty competitive. But we were going into a season where we had lost a lot of seniors, lost a lot of the leadership on the team. Kenny Koplov, and other names that, Demetrius, I'm going to blank on his last name, but he ended up going to Wofford. And I know a couple guys that ended up playing with him. I actually, one of the trainers, Matt Elmeyer at Cressy, pitched on Wofford with Demetrius. So there's,
small world, man.
Small world, baseball, small world. But back to what I was saying, that year we had lost a lot of leadership. So I think what had to happen on that team is the leadership had to be developed, and we obviously had a guy in our coach, who I'm not going to, mention their name or slander anybody's name on the podcast or publicly at all. But our coach was not a very good leader himself, and he didn't know how to communicate himself. He was a very great baseball mind and knew a lot. Great recruiter, great baseball mind, understood, organization and kind of a bureaucratic system, but did not know how to communicate or lead as an individual, to a group of men. And I think that translated to the older kids there, because all, men, women, children, high school kids, we all look up to somebody, right? Like even a 40-year-old look up to somebody. So, we're all looking up to somebody, and the people that we were looking up to, our leadership was not leading us properly. So how is the internal leadership of the team going to lead the younger individuals of the team properly? So I went through some things freshman year that, again, they defined who I am and my tolerance for a certain level of bullshit, let's say. But at the end of the day, it's definitely something that I would never change about myself. The struggles that I went through, from having to kind of earn my role as a team member, earn my role as somebody who was on varsity, a freshman coming in, somebody who was not recruited to be on the team. I kind of walked on to the high school team, so to say, even though everybody's technically walking on to the high school team. But we knew who was there and who was going to play originally, and we knew who, kind of had to earn their spot. And I was one of the kids that had to earn their spot, and I didn't end up earning my spot. And we had a really shitty year that year, and we didn't compete very much, and, ended up turning things around your freshman year, my sophomore year. We had leadership being developed who were juniors going into their senior year. And that, I think, because my freshman year, we only had 3 seniors. And those 3 seniors were not contributing players by any extent. So it was hard for them to lead from the top down. So the leadership was coming from the middle, so to say, the sophomores and the juniors. So the freshmen were looking up to these people and trying to be accepted by these people. And at the same time, you're trying to figure out who you are as a person, your high school career, girls, going to, your family, all these other things.
Through it, man. You're going through it. It's a time where it's a time where you're really just like essentially giving too much of a shit about what everybody thinks.
Yep.
And I remember because you had my freshman year when we really started getting good. So I was so excited for baseball season. I was like, I gotta make varsity. Like, I'm so excited. And then I got mono, and I came back, and dude, I was like 20 pounds heavier, throwing so slow, and I was really like just so worried about what everyone thought of me, because I came to sit with you guys, the varsity team at the baseball table, and I was like, I'm like the kid here that's not on varsity. And I remember you had opened up to me a little bit about your struggles as a freshman, and like it helped so much, like more than because like obviously we were friends at the time, but we weren't like that. But it helped so much because I don't know if you remember this. It's hilarious looking back on. But I was always so quiet there. I would just kind of listen to you guys and just kind of stay in my own space. But one day, Hunter Gates told me to say something to Wiggles when he was like having a bad day or something like that. And shout out Wiggles, because we're good friends now. But I said it, and I didn't really know what I was saying. And he goes, "Dude, shut the fuck up before I beat the fuck out of you." And I'm like, oh. And like I'm this little freshman, and my fucking heart sank, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm hated. I don't think I sat at the baseball table for the rest of the year. Oh my gosh, but no, you opening up about the struggles that you faced as a freshman as well, like helped me so much. And that was like kind of like the first sign of like, I know that I'm going to be really close with this guy, because like people, although it isn't always articulated, people will always be appreciative if you're able to help them in a time where they need help, but they won't always say it. If you go out of your way to really like show sympathy to someone or empathy, it does wonders.
Yeah, I
And
think
so, yeah, I remember that we did that. I wanted to bring that up.
yeah, I think that goes to show that it's not always you don't have to lead from being like the loud, I'm going to break it down guy.
Yeah.
Leadership comes from within in all different, forms and fashions. I'm not, saying I was a leader as a sophomore that year on that team. I don't actually think I was, but in that instance, I might have led by example because I wish there was a guy my freshman year that brought me under their wing like that and said, hey.
And bro, that's what matters. That's what leadership truly is like the things that you see before you are one, doing that when you step into the shoes. Like if you see some of the older guys on your team aren't doing certain things that you think they should be doing, when you step into that role, make sure that you do them, because obviously actions speak louder than words. And when you do them, you never know who you're going to have an effect on.
Yep. Yeah, I think that there's a laundry list of names that I could go off on right now. One of them that comes to mind is Kenny Bergman. Shout out to Kenny. He was definitely a young role model for, I think, a lot of individuals on that team. I mean, that's definitely somebody who was a epitome of hard work and the epitome of the going about your business the right way. And I think, especially from a moral standpoint, sticking up for yourself and, not being afraid to speak your opinion.
Yeah.
But also being able to defend your opinion too. I think that learning that from him, Zach as well, Wiggles, those guys, and then obviously from one another, on the team from and stuff.
Yeah. Talking about Kenny, man, like I remember, like, he also knew how to talk to us. Like, he knew that we were, like, kind of like bulldogs on the mound and not, like, come up and be like, okay, here's what you got to do. It was like, no, you got to tell us how it is and tell us that we need to, like, turn it the fuck on or else shit's going to hit the fan.
No, dude, he used to come up to me and be like, listen, motherfucker, I need a fucking fastball on this outside corner right now. And we're going to go sit on the bench for an inning and have a conversation because you're not getting what your end of the bargain is done. So,
yeah,
I mean that type of situation. But before I go on a rant here, there's an issue with the game nowadays and even society as a whole in terms of like that type of conversation is not happening at that level very often anymore. And it's part of the issue is now when kids get to college and they have that conversation for the first time, same way that we had that conversation for the first time going into high school. Yeah. Now it's reversed, right? Now it's like they're a whole 4 years behind what we were behind. And we were probably 4 years behind the generation before that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's interesting kind of the cyclical time lapse of, the way mentality is developed and taught. And even expressed from individual to individual on teams and within groups.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that thing that it's like what Joe Rogan said. That I remember seeing it on his podcast that hard times make hard men make easy times make soft men. I feel like we're kind of at a day and age.
And soft men make hard times.
Yes, so and soft men make hard times.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of like what happens with baseball, baseball especially, because it's such a mental game. It's like, if you aren't hard out there, you're going to face struggles. You're going to face struggles regardless. But if you aren't hard out there, you're going to face a lot of struggles. And it's going to make hard times. And those hard times are going to be when the hard dudes like stand out. Yeah. And especially in today's day and age where it's like, it's so much social media. There's so much flashy shit, and I'm all for it. I love the social media. I love the flashy, like the neon batting gloves, the neon cleats, stuff like that. I love it. It's great. However, there still needs to be mentality that's taught behind it. That's not all there is to the game. It's not all about what you can show other people. It's about who you are inside.
Yeah, I think you got to have a level of playing the game the right way. I don't know what that looks like to everybody, if it looks the same to everybody. I think that there's obviously a need for baseball to market itself better than it's marketed itself over the last 150 years, from becoming a picnic game to integrating racially, to integrating, internationally from Japan and, the Dominican Republic and Cuba and Puerto Rico and all these other places, Mexico, Canada, where we're getting all these players from nowadays, which is awesome. Its long history is now getting to the point where there's always been these unwritten rules, but for whatever reason, unwritten rules and old school have been synonymous, and they haven't been able to be, go without each other. I think that playing the game the right way and the unwritten rules and being able to express yourself and be flashy and be, self-marketing and team marketing and all those things, they could go hand in hand. But there's a line, from being disrespectful, because there's also a time and age when some of the stuff that was being done nowadays was met with, fastballs to the head and and there's a problem nowadays when the commissioner is fining people for having bench clearing brawls and throwing at people when you're marketing disrespect. So you're gonna market personal disrespect though. This guy's allowed to throw his bat because he's paid $30 million a year and he's so-and-so's top prospect. But I'm not allowed to bust him inside the next at bat, which is what the unwritten rule is. That's what you're allowed to do. And the third baseman and the shortstop is allowed to jar him all the way around the bases if he does that shit. And the catcher's allowed to step in front of home plate like Jason Varitek and Alex Rodriguez and run his ass for fucking time too. I think that has been lost in the game. That goes back to sticking up.
And like I said, and I completely agree with you. And I always say this. I was like, if you hit a 450 foot nuke off me, flip your bat all you want. But you can bet your ass the next time you come up, if I strike you out, I'm staring you down. I'm letting you know. And that's part of like that, like having that, like those kind of hard times, those hard guys that can handle those hard times. Because I feel like everybody's getting so sensitive when it comes to that type of disrespect. I'm okay with being disrespected, but you can bet I'm giving it right back to you. And that's what this game is like, kind of always been built on. And now it's just slowly becoming more and more sensitive to the point where like people only really care about if their home run is going to get views on TikTok or whatever. Sorry, we went way off of topic.
We can go on rants right now. We can go down a whole rabbit hole about baseball players. But
back to high school baseball. Another question I had that I really wanted to get to, which so obviously, like we talked about a little bit, the Interact was like a lot of private schools that would recruit kids. We had guys like Shane Muntz, who's with the Diamondbacks. We had like guys. I'm with the Red Sox. Lancelotti's with the Mets. Like tons of guys who have made it through the college and into pro ball levels. How do you think, or how important was it for you to play that high level talent at high school, at the high school level? Sorry.
I think that's a. I think. Let's take the baseball analogy and use it for life, right? Like I think challenge for any industry at a young age is going to define the individual, and you'll be able to, grow and learn from those challenges. Whether it's, not only were we challenged from a baseball perspective, but we were challenged academically. We were challenged emotionally. We were challenged in life in a lot of, life situations that if we didn't live in Philadelphia, if we didn't live interact with the same people that we interacted with, we wouldn't have been able to go through those things.
Absolutely.
I think that the competition level is a huge advantage. It's a huge opportunity. I think a lot of people look at it and they kind of cower away or shy away from, oh shit, like I don't remember their names now, but guys who played on SCH or CHA at the time when I was a freshman in high school, or played on Malvern, and they were the talk of the town at the time, and we were and it's like, are you gonna? This is an opportunity to make your name and to like write your story and to do this your way, and like if you K him up, then you're the kid who K'd up so-and-so, and now they're paying attention to you. I think a lot of people shy away from that opportunity, and they look at it as a threat because they're scared of either being exposed for who they really are, or they haven't been taught that right mentality either by their coach or their parents or their teachers or their peers or whoever's around them. And I think that that's something that we need to, kind of reinstill in the game.
Sure.
So that's why I went right towards all that. I went right towards the competition. I went right towards, we went, from our talking about our freshman years, how they were compared facet as well. But one of the things that I got out of my freshman year was I went right towards all the smoke. Everybody who wanted smoke with me, who was older than me, better than me, I went right head on with them. I didn't give a fuck. I went right. Yeah. And so I think that that's something that people shy away from, and they like whether or not I made an ass out of myself in competition or in a person-to-person interaction or conflict. That's something I'll have to live with. But at least I know how I react when I'm tested, how I react when I'm put in those situations, how I react when it's bases loaded against Malvern and it's my first interact appearance as a freshman, and I have to get out of a situation. You know what I mean? Or I'm put in as a freshman in, we go down to Florida and play at the Philly Spring Training Complex, and it's my first time ever pitching in a high school game, and they put me in bases loaded, 2 outs, and I have to K the guy up, and I K him up. Now I know who the fuck I am. Now I know that I can do those things, and every barrier I put in my way was only my own mental barrier. They're non-existent. They are only a creation of our own mind. And so that's what competition at a high level at a young age did for me. That's the answer.
Absolutely. That's an awesome way of putting it. I really appreciate you saying that. And because like at the end of the day, the bigger the obstacle that you overcome, the better it feels. I remember like my favorite game in our history at Penn Charter, besides us like winning the Interac, obviously that was great. But I had several games when I was a senior where I shoved, and that's great. Like, but like against GA or Haverford, okay. Right. But the game that we beat my sophomore year, your junior year, you started. We beat Malvern. You threw 5 shutty. I threw 2 shutty after you, and that was when Malvern was like nasty, dude. Like they were top dog. Everyone else wanted to take them down, and we took them down and we shut them out. And that was my favorite game of high school. Game.
Neither of us were supposed to pitch in that spot that year, and the only reason we pitched in those spots was because I was in your position. The first year, the previous year, as the back end guy, as the setup closer guy, and you were on the JV team the previous year. The year afterwards, when you were in that position, and I was in the position I was in as a starter when I was, all conference that year, it was only because guys went down.
Yeah,
and
Wiggles went down.
Guys that were committed to big schools, they all went down, and it allowed kids who had been working for an opportunity and were prepared for the moment. A lot of these kids nowadays, they talk about, I don't get this, I don't get that. I need more playing time. I need more playing time. Well, when you get the playing time, you're not prepared for it. So what the hell were you doing the whole time that you were complaining about the playing time? I think people need to take advantage of the things that they were, offered, the opportunities that they were offered. The Eminem moment, you know what I mean? You got to lose yourself in the movement, in the moment. And I think that if you're not prepared, you have to be preparing. What's the quote? Lack of preparation.
If you're not,
lack of preparation is the preparation to fail. It's something like that. Yeah.
Failure to prepare is preparing to fail.
So I think
I'll get that one.
10 at night. 10 at night.
Yeah, for real. Do you
Go
what?
ahead. No, you go
Do
ahead.
you have a favorite game from high school?
Yo, to be honest, all my games in all of baseball all go in the same spot. So I don't remember anyone specifically. I remember moments in games. I remember moments in games, and I remember like certain things, but seasons, games, like they all get stored in the same place in terms of competition. That's the only thing I'm worried about is when my foot hits that rubber, when I cross that line.
Yeah.
I remember everything that I'm capable of doing from my
That's
past.
so important, man. I remember. So yes, absolutely. Because so there's times where, okay, if you're a pitcher out there, you're going to have a shitty outing. You are going to eventually. And after that outing, it seems like the end of the world. I remember after this outing I had on Mother's Day this past year, I was crying. And I called my mom and I was like, this fucking sucks. I suck right now. This is ass. Fuck this shit. And she's like, and she's like, my parents encouraged me. They were like, keep going. We've seen you overcome more than this. You can overcome this. And it's so funny because looking back on it, I don't even remember what the fuck happened that outing. I have no idea. And that's what's so important is like in the moment, in the present time, things seem like they're such a big deal. Your successes seem like you're over the moon, and your failures seem like they're the end of the world. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the that's the whole point of the idea of don't get too high, don't get too low, because just as long as you stay steady, most of the times you won't remember like how bad you felt or how great you felt in that instance. It's just about staying steady and knowing what you're capable of, like you said. And just going for it every time you're out there. Yeah,
I think that's it's a pivotal, not pivotal. That's not the right word. It's definitely a key proponent to my mindset as a whole is when I'm, especially in competition, it's very easy, like you said, and this can be said with anything, right? Like, and you're a man of faith. You go to church. That's important in your life. And for you, I think that, and please comment on this if this is correct or not, but belief in that, in the positivity that comes from that, and putting your energy and thought process into that gives you a lot of power. And when you take yourself out of that, when you're having, all these negative thoughts, right? And I'll make my point here in a second. But when you're having all these negative thoughts after an outing, all you're doing is replaying all these negative thoughts and all this negative energy, right? So you're convincing yourself I suck. You're convincing yourself that you can't throw strikes. You're convincing yourself you can't throw an 0-2 slider. You're convincing yourself all these things, right? When you know you can. So what I choose to do instead, and this is, my prerogative, this is something that, works for me, is I decide to go back and watch, all the games that I can recall, that I can find on YouTube or find in my phone where I'm dealing and I look better than I've ever looked in my life. And I convince myself I've never had a bad outing. I lie to myself. I will. I'll lie to myself. So,
like you said, like it's like if you're like you said, that faith gives you power.
Yep.
If you're doubting yourself, you're taking that power away.
That's what I'm saying. So why would you ever want to take power away from your own mind? Why would you ever want to take power away? Why wouldn't you want to give yourself power? Why wouldn't you want to give yourself faith? Why wouldn't you want to give yourself hope? So I choose to never watch anything. This goes with social media stuff. This goes with YouTube videos. This goes with movies. I don't watch anything that takes power away from me in my mind. I only watch things that give me power and give me energy and give me purpose and allow me to do the things that I want to do in life. So one of those ways that I do that is by watching my own performances over and over and over again in order to learn from that. Now, do I watch video of the top guys in the world in order to learn from the top guys in the world and the college guys that are the best in the league? Absolutely. But don't get away from watching. I learned this from, and this is more of an ego thing in the music industry, but a lot of rappers, one of my best friends, Jack, Audio Jack, shout out to him. He's a producer, and a lot of guys he worked with, all the time, what they do is they ride around their car listening to their own music. They don't listen to anybody else's music but their own music. Yeah.
I've always been curious about that. Is if like rappers and artists listen to their own music, or do they listen to other people's music?
I've been in cars with rappers where they're listening to their own music. So
That's
it's
awesome.
And I don't know if it's the same intent for them, but I think that there's something to that. I think that there's something to not idolizing yourself, but knowing that you are also in that league of individuals that you get to watch yourself perform at the highest level.
It's that fine line between confidence and cockiness.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not to go without, like, I'm lying to myself and saying all these things didn't happen, all the negative things, right? But I'm not disacknowledging all the things I should learn from that performance. Let's not get that mistaken. It's not like I just go, oh, well, I'm the best. I'm the greatest.
No. I get what you're saying. Yeah. No,
I come off that field and I go, you know what? My changeup wasn't there today. I couldn't command a fastball worth a fuck. When runners got on, I panicked and I got sped up. I learned from all these things, right? But then I go and I watch that shit and I go, oh, well, I can command a fastball. My curveball is one of the best in the league. I know damn well I can throw a changeup for strikes, and I can throw it 0-2. I can throw it 1-2. And I know damn well I can hold runners on. So I don't know why I can't remind myself who the fuck I am. And that's, I think a lot of people, they have a hard time having that belief, that self-belief. And then they take that away because then they believe something that's contrary to the goal that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I do, and I learned this from a book that I was reading on confidence recently, and it's called ESP. And basically what the guy who writes the book is saying is, like, after a performance, I started it with after my outings, and then I kind of implemented it into my daily routines, like practices, and then I just implement it just for every day in general. And the E stands for effort, the S stands for success, and the P stands for progress. And basically what you do is you think of one thing, doesn't matter how big or how small, you think of one thing that you put effort into that day, one thing that you were successful in doing that day, and one thing that you got better at, that you progressed at that day. And what that does is day after day, when you do that, it's filling your mind with positive thoughts about how you go about your work. And it's able to give you that confidence knowing, hey, I got better at this today. I was successful doing this today. I put effort in this today, instead of thinking about all the things that you didn't do right.
That's powerful, man. No, that's powerful. Yeah. Who wrote that book?
I'll send it to you. It's upstairs right now, to be honest. Man, I can't think of it.
You should probably link it to the folks in the YouTube video as well.
It's called The Confident Mind. The guy has a tough last name to pronounce, but so speaking of, like, talking about, like, adversity and stuff like that, I want to talk about your injuries, if you don't mind. So for those who don't know, Timbo's been through the ringer when it comes to injuries. I'll let you speak on it, but how did you grow through the adversity you faced from the injuries and maybe some doubt about coming back?
I think that there's a learning curve to these things, right? And I'm 24 years old, so I'm let's clear this up for individuals, right? So my freshman year of college was 2017, 2018. So fall 2017, August 2017 was my freshman year of college. I graduated high school in 2016, but then went to post-grad down at IMG for a year. And we played junior college competition for the whole year in some Division II and some Division III schools as well. And we also played some professional league competition down in Dominican when we went down there. The adversity in terms of my injuries, so I'm a 6-year senior, right? We had COVID year, so we all got our years back after COVID year. And I also had a redshirt year due to my injury, my shoulder surgery in 2021. So for the first 3 years, my freshman year being the 2018 season, my sophomore year being the 2019 season, and my junior year being the 2020 season before we got shut down. So we played about half of that, a quarter of that roughly. I was healthy, and I was healthy all of IMG, and I was healthy my senior year of high school, healthy my junior year of high school. Had an injury in between my sophomore and junior year of high school, and in between my junior year and senior year of high school. So I've been dealing with injuries and seeing doctors left and right for roughly 10 years now. Mm-hmm. So being 24, going on 25 in January, these issues that have arose with my arm have all been, it's been somewhat of a domino effect, but they've all somewhat also built on top of each other. So the first one that I can remember that, I have a memory of is I tore my labrum going into my junior year of high school. Mm-hmm. And this was an injury that I was told by two different doctors I needed surgery on. And the third doctor, Dr. Morgan in Philadelphia, who operated on Joe Flacco, operated on Kurt Schilling, highly respected in his field. He told me that was nonsense. I didn't need to do that. He had also operated on two of our former teammates as well. So learning from them at the time, and let me just start in high school and I'll go to IMG and then to college because it's kind of a whole process. So in high school, who I learned from how I dealt with these injuries was I watched a lot of motivational videos and I learned from my peers. So my buddy Matt Gorman, shout out to Matt, and my buddy Matt, who we've already shouted out. Both those guys were also kind of bouncing around with some arm injuries at the time, and I learned a lot from how they went about their business and kind of dealt with their rehab and really wanted the best care for themselves. So they were not what's the word I'm looking for? They were disagreeable about what they were going to accept. So if there was less than quality care that was being given, they were not going to accept that. And that's something that I learned to do from a young age, which has set my rehab processes apart from other individuals who have not gotten better or not continued playing throughout the years. So I think that that's a key takeaway. Then I had an elbow injury going into my senior year of high school in between my junior and senior year. So I dealt with that, got that cleared up, and then went into my senior year. Didn't have any arm issues the rest of my senior year, and then didn't have any arm issues in IMG. We played a fall season. We played a spring season. I pitched about 95 innings total, so about 40 in the fall, 55 in the spring, roughly. I mean, I'd have to go back and check exact numbers, but I don't want to do that right now. In my freshman year of college, I threw about roughly 30 innings. I want to say 27 to 30 innings, something like that. I was mainly bullpen guy, and then towards the end of the year, they were doing me more long relief. And then last outing of the year, the starter got, taken out in the first inning, and I pitched 7 innings following that. And I kind of dealt with some impingement, they called it. And let me just say, for anybody that has no understanding of how NCAA baseball works, the funding for athletic training is below par on all levels. Even the Division I level, I'm sure at the top of the top schools, they're still underfunded on the athletic training front. Yeah. A lot of the doctors that are team doctors, they're not really team doctors. They've got a whole practice that they have to worry about. They only have a certain amount of time that they're able to see you in. So they have 15-minute stints per player, and that's not nearly enough time to go through all your symptoms and to diagnose you. They run you through your, 3 tests, and then they say, okay, you have this, and they say, see you later, right? Yeah. So I think it's a underqualified industry for the most part. Okay. And we were underfunded as a program, as a Division II program. It's the reality of the division that we're in and the school that I'm at. And, we're a lot better off now than where we were my freshman year. But my freshman year, that impingement was, hey, go take some Adderall, get some ice and stem, hit the weight room, make sure you're not slacking off, and then, go play ball. So it wasn't really paid that much attention to.
Yeah.
My sophomore year, I was the setup guy and closer, mainly closer for the first half of the year. Mm-hmm. And then I turned into closing the first 2 games of the week, and then I'd start game 3 on the weekend series. So I did that the rest of the year. It was a lot of innings. Yeah. So I did that the rest of the year. And so essentially, for people who don't understand, again, you're going from throwing 1 to 2 innings in an outing to throwing 6 to 7 innings in an outing. So you're increasing your percentage, your outage percentage by 200, 300% nearly. Mm-hmm. So from a physical training standpoint, I was not nearly prepared from a amount of volume capacity to be able to be doing those things. So I went into that underprepared because I was preparing to be a high outage, come in, adrenaline, K up some guys, get some ground balls, get out of the inning, go win a game, right? Or get out of the situation. Yeah. To, okay, I need to conserve my energy. I need to develop three pitches and, kind of learn the lineups and have a better understanding of the scouting report and all these other things. So then towards the end of the year, we're playing UNC Pembroke, and I am dealing through 4. I believe it was the 4th inning or maybe halfway through the 5th inning, and I felt something, kind of going in my back, my lower back, mid back area, which I now realize was my my lat, low trap area, kind of that junction. And so we went, saw the doctor, came out of the game. We won that game, and then we had, at the time, the schedule. Now it's set up differently, but the schedule at the time was we had 2 weeks in between the end. That was the last series of the year, the last game of the last series of the year, and so we had 2 weeks from then to the tournament. So I had 2 weeks to get healthy and pitch in the tournament because we only had essentially 2 or 3 other guys that were fairly competitive at the time on our staff. All right. So we went to the team doctor. He prescribed prednisone. And no X-ray, no MRI, no diagnosis, 10-minute thing. I can barely lift my arm up. I feel like I'm getting stabbed in the back every time I take a breath, but yet somehow I pulled a muscle. Nothing's wrong, right? So prednisone, see you later. Go pitch in the Peach Belt conference. I go and I do that for 3 innings. I walk off. I can barely lift up my arm. Yeah. It was. Then kind of pushed off into the summer. I go into the summer. I'm throwing. I get better. I took like a month off. I was told, just take some time off. MRI. I didn't opt to go get an MRI. I should have at the time individually, personally, but and independently of them. But we opted not to do that. I went back down and trained for the whole summer. Ended up feeling great. Went back into the next season, prepared to pitch at a higher capacity than what I was, and then end up actually throwing fairly successfully in the my junior campaign, the 2020 campaign before we got shut down. And that actually gets into another thing that we'll probably segue to here in a little bit, but our time during the quarantine that we were training together. But I'll go past that. So I was feeling great. I mean, you saw me. I was making strides, throwing harder. You were helping me work on some things when we didn't have coaching. Feeling pretty good arm-wise, health-wise. We were taking videos, sending it to coaches and all this other stuff, working independently of having anybody else around. And then going back into what would be my COVID red shirt junior year. Felt pretty good throughout the whole fall. After our World Series happened in the fall, I came back and we tried to do velos. After 4 days of not throwing, ended up hurting my elbow. We took a month off. Found out that I had a bone bruise in my olecranon, which is this outside muscle in your forearm that leads up to the junction where you bend your elbow. Took a month off for that. Started my rehab process for that, and that's when my shoulder went. I was in Philadelphia at the time, so I opted to get a surgery, a debridement. We went with a debridement in Philadelphia and ended up doing research. I'm a research guy, so I bored my parents with hours and hours and hours of research, and my coaches as well, and tried to find the best place to get the best information from in order to do rehab, because I wanted to optimize my recovery. Because if I was going to go through surgery, then I learned from my past and I learned from my peers in the past, like I said. So again, you're talking about how I learned about adversity and dealing with these things, right? So it's a learning curve. So I had already learned that. So now I'm taking that from my past and learning it and applying it now in the future. And so I'm doing that. And now I'm going down to Cressy, right? And this is something we had talked about previously. But now I'm going down to Cressy with this plan in place of, okay, I'm told it's going to be a 3 to 4 month rehab.
Yeah.
And I had a debridement for the specific injury I had a partially torn labrum, according to the MRI, and I had undercuff tearing. And I have no cartilage in my elbow. So the cartilage in my elbow, I don't feel no issues with that. No bone bruise in my olecranon anymore. And Brendan, you have undercuff tearing. Every baseball player in the history of baseball has undercuff tearing, so it's not unique.
A lot of that's what people don't realize is a lot of the injuries that people face, other guys don't have. Other guys have it as well. It's just a matter of if it hurts or not.
Well, it's symptomatic. Symptomatic. That's the correct We're gonna be good here, and I'm done with the cursing for a little bit, and we're gonna be good with our vocabulary. So the correct term is if it's symptomatic or not. And so my labrum and my undercuff stuff hadn't been symptomatic for a certain amount of time, and now it was, the case was showing that it was symptomatic. So for whatever reason, whatever the movement quality or whatever I was eating or whatever, the whole grand scheme of health, right? Now it's coming back into play of, okay, what's the missing puzzle piece or puzzle pieces that we were missing? And that's now our attack of the rehab going into this stuff. So we took pictures. We realized that I had atrophying to my infraspinatus post-surgery, post-debridement. I was told by the doctor that I was going to have a 3 to 4 month rehab. I ended up having an 8-month rehab. And so we had hiccups throughout that rehab, which I'll come back to all these things, right? I promise you my ranting has a point. So, so all these details, the atrophying, that will come back. So then we go into like June, July of that year of 2021. This is after me and you had seen each other when you've already gone off post spring training and you're playing in your campaign. I'm starting to throw bullpens June, July of that year. And I have another hiccup. I have another issue with my shoulder. Something happens after a bullpen.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it. I didn't feel any throw.
This is when we talked on the phone, right?
No, actually, that was I remember that. I was at a Sunoco in South Philly off of Washington Avenue in December. I remember the exact. I remember I was getting gas, and I was going to hang out with Jack and my buddy Julian at the time, and I give you a phone call, and we talked for about 30 minutes at a gas pump number 2.
Man, Timbo, I don't mean to interrupt you, but like for those listening, like this man Timbo, as you can tell, has been put through the ringer when it comes to nagging injuries, stuff like that. People not really giving him like the whole scoop or like the best detailed work on how to fix it. And I remember Timbo called me, like you said, in December, and he goes, "Man, I just need to talk to somebody to tell me whether I should keep going or not." And I was like, "Man, obviously." Pretending that you're not here right now, all I can say is that this man Timbo is one of the toughest dudes I know. He will be put through just about anything, and he will come out on top. And I told him, I was like, Timbo, if anybody can come back from this, it's going to be you. And here we are now.
Yeah, so I don't want to hold the cat's tongue. I'm not back yet, but we're working on it. We're working on it. I haven't. You're right. I haven't given up yet. But we're working on it. We got a plan. We're going to get to that. It's all going to come together. The audience.
It's all coming together.
I swear to God. So where we're at is I just had a hiccup in the June-July period of 2021. So we go and we see another doctor. So this is now the 5th doctor for my shoulder in 6 years. And so I'm dealing with him. He's a Mets guy. He's a Mets team guy. And so, obviously a lot of faith in what he has to say. And he looks at my shoulder. He goes, you know what? Based on your post-surgical report and based on your PT and based on, everything that you're describing to me, all your symptoms, your shoulder looks exactly how I would assume it to look. I don't think that there's anything uncharacteristic that I'm seeing in your MRI and any of these reporting. And so that was interesting because this is throwing everybody for a loop. It's throwing me for a loop because I'm putting in the work. I'm doing everything the trainers are telling me to do. I'm doing everything that my coaches are telling me to do. Everything that everybody and their mother is telling me to do. Right? I'm doing it. I'm following it like it's the word of God.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the best trainers in the world for baseball, arguably, and the best PTs in the world for shoulder injuries and elbow injuries, arguably, essentially going, we're stumped. We don't get it either. We don't understand. Like for what you're describing and what we were told based on your report post-surgery, this is throwing us for a loop too.
Okay.
So we have a whole team of the smartest people in this field in the world going, we don't know what the fuck is going on. So that's not necessarily giving me a lot of confidence, but at the same time, at least they were being honest. At least I had some sort of lick of honesty coming from somebody. So we go back into that year, and we go into the fall, and I'm having some success. And let me just side note, typically before surgery, I was about 89 to 91, 88 to 91, heavy sink on my fastball. Huge 12-6 breaking ball and, plus changeup, probably not plus. I was sitting anywhere from 85, 87 to 86 to 88 in any one of these bullpens in rehab bullpens, right? So we're right on the brink of being right where I was.
You're right. You're close.
Surgery, right? So everything seems fine. There's nothing that seems out of context.
Yeah.
So we go into the fall of 2021, and I have another issue. So we get the issue after I see the Mets doctor, and we get that cleared up, and we kind of dial back rehab for a little bit, and we dial back throwing, and then we start to ramp back up. I go back into I join my team. I come back to GSW, Georgia Southwestern. I join the Hurricanes again. We get back at it, and I have another issue. I need to dial back down. I need to, kind of rethink what we're doing, how we're moving, how I'm, operating in the weight room, how I'm doing all these things, right? And so, again, I call our team down at Cressy, and we have them talk with the trainers here, the training staff here. We get them in contact with the coaches so everybody's on the same page. We're all globally on the same page.
Yeah.
And so we attack it head on that way. And then eventually I go back down to Cressy. I'm getting healthy, over December. I'm throwing bullpens again, come back up in the spring, throwing game mound, but now obviously, of course, there's another hiccup in the road, and that's my own mistakes. That's stuff that I have to take account for, and that's not taking school and taking academics seriously as seriously as I should have in the time that I was doing rehab in the spring of 2021.
Yeah.
Jumping back to the spring of 2021, I should have been on my online classes, or else I wouldn't have put myself in the position that we are now at in the story in the spring of 2022, which is now my fault. So I can sit here and complain about, I have a laundry list of, injuries, but now I have a lesson that I have to learn for myself of what did I take too seriously over the first, 3 years of my college career that put myself in this position. And you've been here in the past,
100%.
Fortunately, you learned this in high school instead of college a little bit more. But
that was a tough year.
Yeah, so it's fortunately you learned that ahead. I learned that at 23 years old that school in order to play baseball matters. And for a lot of the time that I was at GSW, it was past 9 hours and be eligible for the spring. It wasn't. Progress towards degree and all these other things as well.
Yeah.
So I had issues. I now solved them academically. Now I've got all my T's crossed, my I's dotted. But now we had another hiccup. So I was healthy all the last semester, all the spring, right? Yeah. And then we go into the summer. We're training. We're trying to prepare for this fall and prepare for this year. And, of course, I have another hiccup. I have another issue around July 4th. Feeling great for the first month of, post-spring season. So end of May, beginning of June, into July. And then I go off for a wedding and for vacation July 4th, come back after about 7 days and throw 2 times, and all of a sudden my arm's hurt. So, again, this throws our PT guys for the loop, throws another fascial massagist in there who's worked with Syndergaard and worked with other guys as well for a loop. Like throwing all these dudes for a loop. So I'm like, you know what? I'll take some time off. I'll dial it back. I'll do the same thing we've always done, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've done this 4 times now in this process. Maybe it's just, I went too hard too soon, and we need to dial it back and rethink this.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do. Still having instability in ER, and now it's transition from ER to IR on my throw and all these other things. So we go back to school. I go and see the team doctor again. Team doctor goes, oh, well, what did you do? You rested for 2 weeks prior to come and see me. Oh, well, you didn't rest for 2 weeks here at our school with our training staff, because our training staff is much better than the people who rehab Justin Verlander and Noah Syndergaard. So you have to rest and rehab here for 2 weeks and do everything that, you've been doing for another 2 weeks instead of getting an MRI right away. Okay, yes, sir. All right, good deal. So that's what I did. Played the game, did what I had to do, go through 2 weeks of that, come back, still trying and throw, can't get out to 45, 60 feet without pain. Fuck. So now I'm like, all right, we need to go through this process again. So we go and see the team doctor. Team doctor goes, okay, I'm going to get you an MRI. I get a phone call from the hospital saying that my MRI isn't until the middle of October, when we are in the beginning of September. After I asked for an expedited, this is a spiel that I'm going to get to about the medical insurance backed system of our country and of the NCAA, and it's going to be a rant, but it's an eye-opening and an awakening experience that I've had over the course of my medical history and my injuries and all these other things. And it's that doctors, for whatever reason, are slow. They're slow as hell, and speed is the name of the game in terms of rehab and in terms of performance and in terms of people's careers, especially athletically. So what happens when Le'Veon Bell, I'm using an example now, and it's completely false, but if Le'Veon Bell tears his ACL, right, what happens? He goes and gets an MRI that night. Why? Yeah. Because there's $24 million invested in him from the Jets or from whoever's paying him, from the Steelers, for him to run on a football field.
Yeah.
Right? So I understand I'm a college athlete. I understand that there's not millions of dollars invested into me. But what can I do? I can invest in my own money into myself, and I can do things and take it upon myself because I have the right to do that under the NCAA's guidelines. I can take it upon myself. So what do? I call 6 different doctors in the state of Georgia. I say, I'm willing to drive 3.5 hours, 4 hours, anywhere in the state to go get an MRI if I can get an MRI in 2 weeks or in 1 week. And they all said, piss off, basically. They said, we need to see you in person. We don't care if you already have a script, blah, 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 blah. Only one doctor that I worked with previously said, yeah, come on. We have an MRI guy in-house, yada, yada, yada. So what did I do? I went and saw that guy. I drove an hour. I went and saw that guy. He said, yeah, get the script sent over. So I got the script sent over. We then got an MRI with dye, so it's called an arthrogram, and I also got an EMG test. And an EMG test, for those who don't know what that is, it's a nerve test. So for whatever reason, we had missed the fact that, my PTs suspected it post-surgery. I told you this was all going to come full circle, but the atrophying of my infraspinatus, which is a rotator cuff muscle,
Okay.
It looked like somebody had taken the description from Tanner Allen, who is my PT. His description was somebody took an ice cream scooper and scooped a scoop of, flesh out of my back, right? Like that's what it physically looked like compared to my left side, which is what it looked like.
Oh my gosh.
Normal. So that atrophying is a symptom of a nerve entrapment, because essentially the nerve being entrapped, the synapses are not allowed to fire to that muscle group to activate it. So when you're doing external rotation or internal rotation, or hell, if it was a bicep and you're doing a bicep curl, then your muscle group actually isn't being worked. No matter how many reps you do, no matter
Wow.
well that you're thinking about it, none of that matters. It's
That's
not
crazy.
registered. So it's dying. That muscle group is dying. That the thing was dying, and we don't know, because we don't have the EMG test from before surgery in 2021 to prove that I had a nerve entrapment then. But we have the proof now that I had a nerve entrapment at some point over the past 2 years, and that it has healed, and that it's still, before 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago when I got the EMG test, it was still only 30%. I could only access 30% of my rotator cuff compared to normal on my left side.
Wow.
So I was throwing 86 to 88 miles an hour with an entrapped nerve where I could use less than 30% of my rotator cuff.
That's pretty impressive.
Pretty fucking impressive, if I do say so myself. So the only reason I'm still at this right now is because there's a lick of hope. I'm out here hoping. You know what I mean? So we're out here putting the work in. But it's also, there's some proof in the pudding. It's like, okay, if I'm really, I have that utter belief in myself we talked about earlier, that border, is the borderline of cockiness, that's confidence.
Yeah.
If I have that true belief in myself and I see all the data, right? I see I have only access to 30% of my rotator cuff, and I'm throwing at this velocity, and, I'm having a teeter-totter, roller coaster ride of an injury rehab cycle. Yeah. And now I have all the data that we did not have before. Now I can tackle it head on with my best effort, with all of my teams, going head on at this issue, where PTs were stumped. Now they know how to solve the issue and know how to look at it and give me expectations to what we're going to solve as well. It's not just, okay, they're going to give me blind expectations to what I'm going to do. It's also like, okay, if this is a nerve thing, okay, well, the doctors in America told me it's going to be 6 to 12 months for my nerve synapses to properly heal. They said with surgery, it would take 4 months for me to, get my rotator cuff repaired, and it would be, a 9-month labrum surgery for me to get my slap tear repaired, right? That means I'm not playing baseball anymore. That means my athletic career, to a degree, now I could go off and do other things that don't involve, throwing, but that would be over. My baseball career would be over, because essentially I have not played for 2 years. I'm not dumb, right? Like you said in the beginning of the podcast, I'm a business major, right? So I understand baseball is a business. Yeah. And I'm not, although I have confidence that I can compete with the utter best of the best, I'm not stupid, and I know marketability for a 25-year-old coming out of college in baseball isn't high. It's not high when he hasn't played for 2 years. And so the route and the road that I'm going to have to take is either independent ball, or I'm going to have to sign a free agent contract, which is most likely what I would have to do anyway, being a righty that throws under 95 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Like that's the reality of the situation. So I'm not blind to that. So me understanding those things, that means that my numbers for what they were in the first 3 years are pretty damn good for, where I was at velo-wise, where I was at stuff-wise. The difference is that for the past 2 years, I haven't been able to be on the field. So I don't have any resume for 2 years. So even if I came back this year, the resume has to be big enough to the point where now scouts, now people looking at that, even coaches who want to help me market myself can go, okay, we're willing to rest our laurels on this. We're willing to help this kid out. We're willing to, put our name out there, and kind of stick our neck out for this kid and get him in front of scouts or get him in front of whoever, because he has the resume from the past. He's put in this work over the past couple of years where he wasn't able to be present in competition, and now he's able to be on the field, and he's got all these things figured out. I have to get that figured out first, right? in order to even have a chance of playing in the future. But the reason that we're even going at this now, the reason I went through this whole process is, one, because I want to know what the hell is going on with my shoulder, because I believe in myself so much that I know that I'm not lying about having pain. I know I'm not lying about having arm issues. I know I'm not, a quote unquote weak guy, quote unquote, bitch, or whatever the slang term might be, right? That you get told when you're in college athletics, professional athletics, high school athletics, anywhere in a competitive injury or competitive industry ever, you're going to be, be around competitive males, and you're going to deal with these types of things. And that's not an insult to me, but I know I'm not that individual. I know I'm very secure with who I am. And I know that my work and my work ethic is, definitely an indicator of the fact that I should have gotten better and healthier if all the things were what they said they were originally, right? So all those indicators to me were like, okay, I need to really go solve this problem because we don't have these, this puzzle solved. And once I solve the puzzle, now we can attack it head on. And now that we have the puzzle solved, now that we can attack it head on, now I feel confident. And that's where, obviously we can get into stem cells and stuff like that you want to talk about as well. But going down from having phone calls with 11, 12 different doctors over the portion of the first 5 years, and then over the course of a year and a half talking to 6 more doctors since then, and doctors outside the country in Mexico as well. Like, these are all things that I'm trying to now get a full scheme of the medical industry here, and what we're being told is our reality in our medical industry, and what, treatments are out there for people that, are kind of thinking outside the box. And that's where CPI, Cellular Performance Institute, that's Ed Clay, Scotty Nelson's place down in Tijuana, Mexico. They work with a lot of MMA boxers, UFC guys, jiu-jitsu guys.
Interesting.
And so they've been, and first off, they're a cancer hospital. They've been treating cancer patients before they were doing their stem cell program. And so their way of approaching this was much different in terms of the results that I was looking for, and in terms of, okay, I'm going to be able to get on the field in 4 months compared to 6 to 8 months, which means that my career, I have that opportunity to get on the field, to build that resume for that last year and have that last shot. And then I can rest my laurels on, okay, I've given it all my all. I put all my hard work in. We've attacked this. We know what's actually going on in my shoulder. And if I never get healthy, or if I don't, get healthy in time for the season, then I know damn well that I've done everything in my power in order to be able to do those things.
Dude, that's what's so important too, is like, at the end of the day, like, perfect example for me, if I don't make it to the majors, but I know that I did everything I could possible to get to the majors and still didn't make it, I can sleep at night. If you did everything you possibly could to recover from the injuries that you've been dealt with, and it doesn't turn out like how you wanted it to, you can sleep at night. But it's just like, you never want to go to bed wondering what if. What if I could have finished this? What if I tried one more time to come back and stuff like that? It's just, you never want that one what if.
Yeah, I mean, I have all the time in the world to go work a job, to get married, to have kids. I got all the time in the world to go do that. I've got not rushing to go do any of those things.
Do what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids are confused. Especially at our age, it's a tricky time where you're trying to figure out what you want to go do in the world and how you want to be a contributing member of society. And people want to, especially parents, want to hone you and hound you about getting out in the world and making money and doing all these things, right? But, I think understanding your approach to how you want to go about your life and your decisions and your career and your, experience as a human being as a whole. I think that's more important than going out and working a 9 to 5 right off the bat.
finding yourself and finding who you really want to be is much more important. Much more important. So, finishing up with the injury aspect of what we were talking about, there's a lot. Humans obviously are evolved. We become bigger, faster, stronger, and unfortunately, serious injuries are becoming more common for people at younger ages.
Mm.
So, with these kids that are still growing, they're still learning about who they want to be, how to go about life, and they're faced with a giant adversity like that. What advice would you give them when it comes to going through such a strenuous time in their life?
Having a good support system. For me, that had to do with I don't have real brothers, but I have brothers that, I play baseball with, that I grew up with. And I think that those individuals for me were my masculine influence, and contributed to a lot of the morality that I hold today, and the morality that I, am now able to kind of lean on, and a lot of the things that I'm able to lean on. And I think that having that support system, whether it's your a lot of people say it's their family, a lot of people say it's God, a lot of people say it's their brother or sister from, blood connection.
It can be all of it too.
Yeah, it could be all of it, right? For me, what it was I had a lot of great friends that I had, been able to weed out and pick who I really wanted to invest my time with and in.
Yeah.
And who was investing their time in me as well, and making me a better person and holding me accountable. I think that friendship is not, and brotherhood and all those things, it's not just who you like, who holds you accountable, who actually gives a fuck about you enough to tell you no, to tell you don't do something, to tell you what, when you're wrong. I think that that's lost. And I think that anybody who's going through a hard time, whether it's an injury or whether it's anything in life, right? Any life obstacle, if you don't have discipline for yourself, and you don't have accountability for yourself and accountability from others, you're not going to go very far. And I didn't develop the routines and the disciplines that I had from just being myself. That came from a lot of outside influence as well.
That's why I think hitting rock bottom is so important. When you hit rock bottom, not only do you really figure out what you're made of, but you also figure out who your real friends are. Because when you're at rock bottom, man, I have no problem opening up about it. So we talked about it a little earlier with my struggle with school. When I was a senior in high school, for those who don't know, I cheated on an essay. I plagiarized. And after I plagiarized the essay, they caught me and they sent a letter to my college saying, this is my senior year, like last semester, senior year. And they said that I had broke the academic code. Tulane, my school, got that, and they told me I couldn't come my first semester of college. So when all my friends, everybody I know, go off to college, I was at home bussing tables, taking community college classes, and I felt like such a loser. I'm not even gonna lie. And that was my rock bottom. That and probably getting like the yips. Those were two really hard times for me. It was in the same like school year, so it was all just kind of one really hard time. But during that time, that was when I really, really found out who I could trust with everything. It was guys like you, Gorman, my boys, Adam, DB, all them, my parents. Like hitting that, like first of all, it's so awesome to hit that and then prosper from it, because you look at how far you've come and you're so proud of yourself. But also, it's just so important because not only do you have those people around you that you're like, these are the people that I want to be in my wedding, in my life forever, but it also just lets you know that you're loved. It gives you a sense that you're loved, even when you feel like you're unlovable.
Yeah, I think that's important for anybody, right? Like growing up with like anybody who doesn't have a good family, situation. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like anybody, I'm not just specifically because, I mean, I have a good relationship with my family. We weren't on the best terms throughout high school and growing up all the time, but I have a pretty damn good relationship with my family, and I don't necessarily say that a lot of my morals and things that I've learned have come from my parents, but they've definitely developed the mindset of being. I wouldn't be who I am, obviously, without either of them. So I think that all of that, where you're essentially saying, like, when you're at rock bottom, when you're at these low points, and you have all these people around you who you're able to open up to, you're able to rely on, feeling loved is definitely that's a key thing. But I think it's also like you said, like I'm saying as well, it's like the love with discipline, because it's not just being coddled. It's also like it's there, because there's like nowadays there's the connotation to love that it's all good all the time.
No.
It's not what love is. Like
love is people telling you, hey, you got to strap up right now.
Yeah.
Hey, when Kenny would come out to the mound and be like, you need to like fucking lock in right here. That's love. That's him showing you, look, I know what you're capable of, and it's not this. That's basically what it is. When you're at that rock bottom and you know those people are there for you, it's like you said, it's not coddling, but it's like it's those people that'll be there for you and help you up and help you realize you're meant for more than this. You're meant to be greater. You are meant for great things. You're not meant to be where you are right now, and I will help you out of it. That's real love.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of real love, so I want to talk about your dog a little bit, because I know that is a really big relationship that you've had in your life, and you've had your dog for a while. I mean, I know we're getting to the age where some people are starting to like get dogs and stuff, but you have a very, very passionate relationship with your dog. So, which, if you wouldn't mind, like, tell me about the journey you've gone through and how much effect Valkyrie's had on your life.
Definitely has changed my perspective on discipline. Has definitely changed my perspective on ownership, on compassion, on these taking care of another, being responsibility, being responsible for another life. It's taught me a lot about animals and about our understanding and what we've been taught a lot of the time about what animals are also capable of and what they're, able to do and what they're not able to do, and how to train a dog and how to interact with the dog. Even like we see movies and again, we want to go back to the coddling conversation we were having a minute ago. Yeah. Owning a dog isn't just coming home to your dog and just going, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, that's not what owning a dog is.
Yeah.
There's a great, one of my best friends, he sent me this guy when I was, when he got a dog and he started, training his dog and learning from these guys. I think that it's interesting. All of the things that I learn from or learn about, like any skill that I pick up or anything that I do, there's always a sage. There's always a master that I learn it from. There's always like a key individual where I go, okay, I'm going to base my philosophy off this guy.
And you do your research for that as well, obviously.
Oh, pretty heavily. And usually it's influenced by either somebody around me who suggested something for me or whatever, and that kind of kickstarts it or jumpstarts it. But so this was an individual named Katie Matthews on Instagram for individuals who are interested in this type of thing. He's a dog trainer and dog behavior specialist, and he's written a couple books, but there's one specific book that's like 100 pages long that he's written, and anybody who's going to get a dog, they should read it before they get their dog. So that's what I did. Is I did all this. Also, I did all this research before I even got a dog. So most people jump into, I'm going to get a dog right now.
And then do all the research.
And then they do all the research once they realize the dog's shitting all over the house and they can't control the dog. This is for real. Like it's a joke, but it's for real. And this is an issue. It's an issue in our society, is that we jump into things without understanding what we're truly getting into. and then we're in over our heels. And then the issue is that a lot of dogs end up in shelters, and a lot of dogs are given up because they're out of the puppy phase. So they're out of the phase where they're a commodity and they can be taken, for Instagram pictures and all these other things. And then they shove them into the shelter because they're shitting in the house. They're pissing in the house. They don't listen. They're biting people. They're barking at people, and they can't control them. And the dog owners don't know why. And it's because they're not holding their dog accountable. They're not having any discipline for themselves. And dogs are a reflection of their owner. That's one of the main things that I learned from this guy. And if you see a good dog, it's usually because there's a good owner. It's not because they, occasionally, very occasionally, the dog has been sent off to a training facility and it's come back and it's well trained. But even then, even if a dog's well trained and it comes back to an environment where it's not held accountable, it's going to revert back to its primal instincts. And for example, I did research into the type of breed that was best for me based on my lifestyle. So the breed I chose was an American Akita because they're usually docile in terms of the amount of not docile is not the right word. They're lazy. They're couch potatoes. They lay around all day until they have to have a lot of energy.
They have to do something.
Yeah, and so but they're typically high aggressive and majorly dominant dogs as a breed. Generally speaking. And even though my dog, she's back there on the couch right now, even though she's a couch potato and she's calm and, everybody and their mother loves her, she also has her breed in her.
Yeah, and she has that aggression.
She has aggression. She was also a rescue. She was a dog fighting dog, a bait dog. For people who don't understand the reality of dog fighting, a bait dog is the dog that's the runt of the litter that's put in the middle of the pit, and they're sicking the bigger dogs, the more aggressive dogs that they're using to, fight, or they're using to breed or sell or whatever on that bait dog. So she was all scarred up. She was, underweight, had no hair on her, fleas, ticks, the whole nine. They found her on the streets of Louisiana. In New Orleans,
dude. I remember that. I remember when you first got her. Like, it was during the time that we had that we were training at the field of Roman's Field, and I just remember you were texting me like every other week, like that you had to take her to get some sort of shot or something.
Well, yeah, she had heartworm at the time. Actually, she had heartworm.
Yeah.
She was just getting all these off of the. She had blood work done, and she had heart guard and all these other things that she had to get. But she had a lot. That was the main thing. But she had again, just like me, just like her papa, she had a laundry list of issues with her, and she was getting them fixed. We were getting her help to get them fixed. But at the same time, I had just gotten her in January of that year, and she was a 5-year-old dog at the time that I got her. Mm-hmm. And so when you saw her, which was, the probably 4th or 5th month of that year, we got shut down in March or April or whatever. Yeah. We were all back home around that time. And, I was bringing her out to the field at that time. She was just getting taught. So a lot of the things that, we're taught as humans in order to, train dogs and all these things is like, they got to be fed 3 times a day, and they gotta have their own comfortable bed all the time and all these other things. Like, that's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And she is a very sweet dog who's been through a lot, and she's had a tough life, but that doesn't mean that she's not tough. That doesn't mean she can't get a little tough love. That doesn't mean she's not going to be held accountable when and so like that's kind of where I was at in the process when you saw me with her. Because for what people don't know is with a puppy, with an older dog, any type of dog that you don't have any relationship with, it's like a person, right? Like, Brendan, when me and you first met, I'm not coming to you just barking orders at you and expecting you to do them. Because you're not going to look at me and be like, who the fuck are you? You don't know me. I don't know you. I don't respect you. I don't have any.
Dog.
Same thing. You got to look at it the same way with a dog. So just because you're human.
I've never thought of it that way before.
So just because you're a human. Just because you're human doesn't mean you have authority over that dog. That dog has to look at you as an authority figure. You have to operate as an authority figure. You have to operate as somebody who commands respect from that being. And so, for example, I was told all these things that were going to happen, and sure enough, they came true. So I come home in this house. The first time that I ever brought her home, we drove back from Philadelphia, 13 and a half, 15-hour drive from Philadelphia to Americus, Georgia. And I let her in the house, and she runs right to my bed in my room and jumps on it. That's a no-no. She's a dominant breed. She's claiming my bed as her property. She's claiming the house as her property by claiming my bed as her property. She's now saying that she runs the house. No.
She runs that shit.
Put outside. She tries to eat my food. She gets put outside. Or she gets a little, smack on the nose. She pees in the house. She gets a smack on the nose. She poops in the house. She gets a smack on the nose. Those types of things are real. And the whole coddling puppies and coddling dogs, you are only hurting the dog at the end of the day. You're only going to have an obese, overweight, untrained, aggressive dog that's going to end up either hurting somebody, hurting another dog, or hurting themselves. And then you're going to have to end up giving them up, and you're going to be sad, and you're going to be depressed because now you're like, oh, well, I'm without my dog.
My God.
I love so much, and it's your damn fault, and you can't take accountability for it.
Bro, you're 100% right. My heart broke the other day because a couple of years back, my first off season, I was staying with my cousin, and my cousin Sarah. She has a son, Bennett, and Bennett really wanted a dog for Christmas. And I was staying with them, and Sarah and I talked it over, and I was like, look, she was a nurse, so she had 12-hour shifts. I was like, look, I'll take care of the dog. When you're gone, we can get a dog for Bennett. So we get this dog together, we have a little family going. I love this dog. He was a bad boy, but I love this dog. And I helped raise him and stuff like that until I had to leave for season again. And it was so funny because Sarah's mom is my mom's sister. And growing up, going to their house, every dog they had was fat. Unhealthily fat. Yeah. I was like, geez, man, because they would just feed them their food. And I come back from season this year. This is 2 years later. And I go see them, and I see Roscoe, and he's getting heavier. And I'm like, no. We cannot let this happen. We cannot let this happen to Roscoe. That is my boy right there.
Yep. No, it's sad. It's sad. I mean, it's the same. It's obesity in the dog world is the same thing with obesity in the human world. It's an epidemic. Nobody wants to talk about it. You're not allowed to fat shame anybody. You're not allowed to say anybody's fat. You're not allowed to actually look at reality and say, you're overweight. That's unhealthy. That's the root of a lot of your problems, and you need to lose weight. And it's the same thing when you tell a dog owner about their dog. Your dog's fat, and it's got cancer and diabetes, and you're feeding it 4 times a day, and you're feeding it under the table with things that it shouldn't eat. It shouldn't eat Cheerios and chips, potato. Why is it eating potato chips?
It's interesting. No, it's really interesting you bring that up because we are in a world right now where body shaming is such a sensitive topic that people are just you're beautiful no matter what. And look, I'm all for that. I think everyone is beautiful in their own way. However, health is not on or off type thing. Not. It's either you're healthy or you're not. It's not like you can kind of go around or take shortcuts to being healthy. No, you're either healthy or you're not. And if you're unhealthy, then that should be something that is honestly looked into.
I'll solve this conversation with one question. Are you buying a fitness program from Lizzo? No, you're not. You're not going out here buying fitness programs from any of these people. No, you're not. And so why would you take any type of advice about health from any one of these folks? If you don't have aspiration, are you going to listen to the guy who's broke about how to make money? No. Are you going to listen to the guy that's not in the position where you want to be about where to get to the position you want to go? No. So why are you listening to people about health that are fat, that are out of shape, that are not healthy, that are obviously unhealthy? The health minister of, it was either the Netherlands or Germany or one of those, maybe Denmark, something like that. she's completely out of shape, talking about you need to do XYZ in order to stay healthy, and sure that you're protecting yourself from these diseases and all these something. Like, you wouldn't be able to walk for 5 minutes without being out of breath, and you're going to tell me how to be healthy. That doesn't make any sense to me. And then when people who are healthy, who are, taking their health, their fitness, their nutrition, their sleep, all these things extremely seriously, and, tracking their data and holding themselves accountable and having discipline, when they question any of these people, they go, "Oh, you're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. You shouldn't be talking like that. You're being mean." They throw words at you to try and write you off as your opinion doesn't matter, in order to either continue with the nonsense agenda or whatever the hell that they want to spew. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna sit here and say that somebody who's fat is healthy. I'm not gonna say that they're not beautiful. I mean, I don't personally find somebody who's fat attractive, but that doesn't mean that they can't find self-worth and find beauty in themselves and find beauty in the things they do. I'm not saying that. I think that there's a distinction between a lot of these things in beauty and in health, and beauty and in what you find attractive.
I think it's important for everyone to see beauty in themselves and see beauty in others, because beauty is much more than just what you look like.
Exactly. So that's the point.
It's how you act, it's your personality, all that stuff. However, what I couldn't really figure out a way to say it before, but basically it's like, it's not an argument. It's not like the images that you see on Nike and Under Armour are like, no, not everybody needs to have like a six-pack or anything, but it's important to at least take care of your body. You were given this body for a reason, and if you just treat it like shit, then you're gonna feel like shit.
Yeah, and then you're gonna get upset at people and blame, make excuses and blame other people for reasons why you're unhappy, and then it's a never-ending cycle, and we get nowhere.
All right, well, there's one more thing I wanted to get into before I wrap up here, or we wrap up, and that's music. You touched on it a little earlier. We're both big music lovers, and I wanted to tell you this because I don't know if we'd ever talked about it, but so when this was when I was a freshman, and I was really self-conscious, and I remember we talked about Kendrick Lamar's "To Pimp a Butterfly." We were texting about it, and you sent me a link about like what you thought about it, and how article talking about how he really writes a story like throughout that album. And it's a beautiful album, absolutely like awesome. It was like a feeling of like acceptance for having like an older guy share something that like he sees within an album with me, and it was just a great feeling. But I wanted to know like what if you remembered that at all.
I actually don't.
You know,
I don't remember that.
That's what I mean. That's another example of people not knowing the power they truly possess on how they can impact other people's lives. Because honestly, I was hoping that you would say you wouldn't remember it. No, I do, and it's nice. It's nice to think about that stuff. But
yeah, it is.
Did you listen to Drake and 21's album?
I did. I briefly have skimmed through some of the songs over the past couple of days. Yeah.
I don't know. There's been a lot of like different thoughts about. I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome. But I know you're more into like the rappers that have a lot more substance in their music. What is it?
I think that's a bad way of putting it though, because it's a Drake and 21 have substance. It's just a different type of substance. Just because it's not a lyrical.
That makes a lot of sense, honestly, yeah.
Yeah, like the interesting thing about those guys is Drake is the Tom Brady of rap. Like he's
100%. The LeBron James.
Or the LeBron or Michael Jordan. I'm Michael Jordan more than a LeBron James guy. Sorry, or Kobe Bryant. But in terms of like consistency and in terms of always being at the top of their game and not just changing the game, because like although Drake has changed the game a little bit. It's typically younger, more influential, like in terms of the newer age guys that are kind of changing the sound, and then people adjust in the mainstream. And there's a whole science to it. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, it was a pretty good album. It was pretty good. It was better than his last one, that's for sure.
All right, so I like to usually do a game before the end of each episode. So I want you to give me your. We're gonna do an album draft. So
Okay.
any albums out there, I want you to give me your top three, and I'll give you my top three, and you can start it off with the first pick.
Illmatic by Nas.
Oh, that's one of the best albums of all time.
Yep.
I remember the first time I listened to that was in your dad's gym. You showed it to me. It was phenomenal. I have to say, my first one is the Carter 5 by Lil Wayne.
Okay.
There's a lot of beautiful music on there, but there's one song, "Let It All Work Out." That it's kind of also like a thing that you think about, like it'll all work out, like just keep on going, keep pushing, keep doing it. But also, there's this one verse in it where he talks about being like when he shot himself, and he like almost committing suicide, and it is just like you get goosebumps listening to it, and there's like, oh my gosh. For anyone who hasn't listened, go listen to Carter 5. Absolutely beautiful album. Full of awesome songs. Great songs.
Number two, or is it a three pick? Is that what you said it was?
It's a three pick. Yeah. So you your second pick.
Second pick. Shit. I don't know. I if I'm gonna stay on rap, I got another one. It'd probably be Good Kid, Mad City, a Kendrick Lamar album. That's a pretty good one. I have a couple rock albums as well that would.
Dude, you can do whatever genre you want.
I mean, it would. It's tough, man, because like I have such a. Like, I listen to classical. I'll listen to Mozart one day. I'll listen to John Coltrane. I'll listen to I'll listen to the Coasters. I'll listen to Duke Ellington. I'll listen to Barry White. I'll listen to all these guys, and then people ask me my favorite albums. I'm like, there's too much music.
Yeah, there's too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think about that too. I think about it more for like I like listening through albums, but I think more just for like songs in general, like specific songs. Because I'll find an album and like the album may not be amazing, but there's one song on it where I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
But I have to go with my second. I have to go 2014 Forest Hills Drive by
That's a good one. That
is a beautiful album, man. Beautiful album.
That's a good one.
Bro, you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a little inappropriate, but we're like 2 hours in, so if you're still listening, thanks. But I was invited to like this a little like retreat that some of my friends and I went up to up in the Poconos, and it was like last minute. But like the girls that were up there, including my girlfriend, they organized like dress up like certain like themes for each night, and one of them was you had to dress up like a song. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, and from that album, I did Wet Dreams, and I got gray sweatpants and just poured a bunch of water at the spot that you know exactly where, and just wore that. And we had to like walk out to it. So they played Wet Dreams, and I have to walk out to it with this splash of water right above, you know where.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right. Give me your third.
Number three. Shit, man. I'm going to lose hair over this.
What hair?
Yeah, exactly. I shaved it all off now. Hell, I don't know. I'd probably go if I'm gonna again stay on the rap train, since this is fresh in my head and I'm not thinking about other music right now. I'll probably either go with either Freddie Gibbs' Pinata or Jay-Z the Black Album. Probably a tie between those two.
Jay-Z, man. I think Jay-Z has been a little forgotten about too quick. He's one of the best. He's one of the best, and people don't really.
It's the way of the world, bro. It's the 6-minute TikTok soundbite. Everybody needs their beat drop, and if you don't get, if you don't hit the algorithm right, then you're not going to be popular. So,
I think my last one. See that there isn't. I love how like rap. I talked about this with DB when he was on. That rap can really have a lot of art in it and a lot of meaning behind it. This doesn't really hit there, but it's just because you know me, I like to dance. But I got to do "Wanna" by Gunna because there's so many songs where I just want to dance to on there. I love Gunna's songs. They're calm, they're vibey, they're great, man.
That's awesome. Well, no, I actually haven't even listened to that album. I'm not gonna lie.
Great album, great album. All right, well, Timbo, it's been a pleasure, man. This has been my longest one yet. I was kind of expecting it to be that way because, dude, we've had a lot of car conversations longer than this.
I can run my mouth, sure.
But thank you so much for coming on. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us with a mantra that you live by, I like to end it with that.
Yeah, so I apologize. I'll probably go on another 5-minute spiel, but I'm sure Brendan's aware of this. We've been talking about discipline and accountability and all these things. I get a lot of that from watching stuff from my grandfather and stuff from my father. My father woke up every single day at 4 a.m, no matter what, sick, just got back from a flight. Doesn't matter. It didn't matter. He's getting up, doing whatever he had to do in order to put, food on the table, in order to, give me the opportunities that I've been blessed to have, give my sister the opportunities she's been blessed to have, protect and provide for the family. And I think my grandfather did the same thing, working for, he was flying planes in the Navy for 20 plus years. So, and right out of World War II. I think the thing that I take from them and the thing that you are aware of as well is this guy, Jocko Willink, that I take a lot of.
Jocko's the man, dude.
He is the man, and him and another Navy SEAL, David Goggins. I take a lot of stuff from them, and I apply it to my own life. And one of the things I take from Jocko specifically is his phrase "good," and I want to just explain what "good" means. So Brendan might be aware of this, but for those who are not aware of this, what "good" means is if you wake up and you're feeling sick, good. It's an opportunity to push through some adversity for your day. If you break your arm, good, and you play basketball, it's an opportunity to sit on the bench and watch other people and learn from the game in a different way. If your car breaks down, good. You can call a friend, see who's there to have your back, and it gives you an opportunity. Like anytime that anything bad in your life happens, if you just say good and you find the opportunity, you find the positive in the negative, and you're able to turn that. He was doing it under extreme circumstances in Fallujah and Iraq and fighting with, people that he probably trained and loved, dying, getting shot, him having to command operatives in the, highest stress known to man. But in a sports perspective, if I'm a closing pitcher and I'm coming in, the game's 2-0 and my first pitch gets hit to the wall, I'm sitting there going, good. This is what I want. I dream of that moment.
Like we said before, adversity makes a positive circumstance feel even better at the end.
Yeah, I think if you're broke, when you get rich, then you look back.
It's a lot better than if you're always rich.
Then you look back on the times you were broke. That's the only enjoyable part of being rich. It's the same thing as when you're unsuccessful in the sport. When you look back and you have, so-and-so doubted me, so-and-so sold me short, so-and-so wrote me off, this coach overlooked me, this coach never recruited me, and you go, I can prove you wrong, 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 time and time again. I think that that's something that you can take a lot of pride in. That's where I use the thing good in order to get me there a lot of the time is, I dream of being the closer that can get out of a bases loaded situation in the ninth inning and still win a ball game for his organization. I dream of having the opportunity of getting out of, a tough jam in life and being able to be the guy that my brothers look to me and you go, you know what? We want to rely on him. We want to follow his leadership under these tough times, under these specific circumstances to where, you know what? He handled himself accordingly. We want to follow his lead. I want to be that guy. And the only way that you are that guy is if you're presented with challenges to where you get to show yourself in that light, in that opportunity. So if you don't say good to those chances, then you're going to cower away. You're going to shy away from that opportunity, and you're not going to be the person you want to be, or you're setting out to be.
Dude, I love that, man. Thank you. And you know what that reminds me of is, for anybody watching the World Series, everybody saw Alvarado give up that 3-run homer to Alvarez. And this is what makes big leaguers, is that Alvarado isn't sitting at home and sulking about the fact that he gave up that home run. No, he is looking and visualizing in his mind the very next time that he's in that situation, and he's thinking nothing else but how he's going to get out of that situation next time, how he's going to succeed in that situation next time. Because next time he's in the World Series and he's facing a power hitter like Alvarez and he strikes him out instead of giving up a home run, that's going to feel twice as better as it did if he struck him out both times.
Absolutely, Brendan. Beautifully said.
All right, Timbo, man, you're awesome, bro. Thank you again for coming on. Thank you for sharing so much about your life. And for all you guys listening, thank you for listening, and we'll have another episode next week.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for the opportunity of coming on here. You're doing an amazing thing by having this podcast. I'm excited to see what it unfolds into, and keep being you, man. God bless.
Appreciate you, dog.